Thank you for taking a moment to view the FY19 School Division Operational Budget informational presentation. It is our intent to engage all CCPS stakeholders and community members in an informational overview of the following presentation objectives: current and historical school division funding, highlights and the impact of Governor's proposed budget, the impact of the Virginia retirement system, development of the FY19 Estimate of Needs, budget alignment with Pathways 2022, overview of our Caroline County Public School Compensation Study, impact of the compensation study on the fiscal budget, and next steps. Slide 3 represents the fiscal year 18 revenue table. A fiscal year begins on July 1st and ends the following year on June 30th. Our current operational budget for 2018 totals $45,502,533, with $26,003,320 coming from the state and $13,778,445 coming from the county. Last year, our operational budget increased by 1.35% over FY17. This revenue pie chart documents that in FY18 budget, the state provided 57% of the total revenue, which makes up the operational budget. The county is the next largest provider, contributing 30%. Other revenue consists of federal dollars and other sources such as grants, reimbursements, or fees. When asked whether we receive comparable funding for the school division from state and local entities, the answer has traditionally been no. This graph provides a breakdown of revenue for other school divisions and Caroline County. As you can see from the comparison, our school division budget is balanced on a greater percentage of state revenue. It is important to note that this slide does not reflect a greater amount of state dollars. The amount of state revenue varies by locality based on something called the Local Composite Index. Factors such as student population and the wealth of the locality determine the LCI, or Local Composite Index. It is reasonable to consider the overall wealth of a locality when assessing a school division's total operational and capital improvement budgets. Localities vary in terms of capital needs, number of students, size, and source of revenue. For instance, the James City Williamsburg area would benefit tremendously from tourism, restaurant, and hotel taxes, in addition to other forms of revenue. Therefore, it is best to compare similar school divisions in terms of capacity, the ability to pay for public education, and effort, the willingness of a locality to pay. Slide 6 reflects a comparison of school funding for localities of similar size. It is important to note that it is required by law that a locality provides at a minimum the revenue required to fully fund the standards of quality. This is called basic aid. However, the basic aid formula does not compensate for necessary instructional support or administrative positions that exceed the standard of quality. For instance, currently, the SOQ does not mandate that a school division have a full-time principal at each elementary school, nor does the SOQ require the necessary elective teachers, school counselors, assistant principals, or instructional support necessary to fully operate our schools. Additional staffing beyond the SOQ is funded by the locality and special state or federal programs such as Title I or Perkins grants. Consequently, every locality in the Commonwealth funds education above the required local effort. This difference, or percentage above required local effort, enables localities to improve the quality of their school divisions by adding resources, improving facilities, and competing for the best educators and staff for their division. This slide compares Caroline County with 5 localities that are similar in terms of Local Composite Index, the state calculation for the locality's share of the standards of quality and student enrollment. When ranked according to the locality's capacity for wealth and effort, willingness to fund public education, Caroline County ranks 82nd out of 132 localities in capacity. However, the division drops to 104th out of 132 when in terms of the effort ranking. Some of the divisions noted have similar trends in terms of a higher capacity ranking than effort ranking, such as Stanton, while other divisions like Dinwiddie spend a higher percentage of their local budget on public education. While more funding is required to fully fund the operational and capital needs of the school division, it is important to note and show appreciation for the areas where our local government has supported Caroline County Public Schools. This slide shows several areas where county funding has been provided. 1. Establish an annual school bus replacement cycle. 2. Provides annual funding for 2 school resource officers. 3. Increased funding to the school division operational budget by $1,661,062 from fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 18. 4. Provided the funding needed this past fiscal year to provide a cost of living adjustment for bus drivers and paraprofessionals. 5. All school division debt service is managed through the county budget. Selected direct aid budget policy changes are shown here. There are a couple of changes worth mentioning. Virginia Retirement System, VRS, rates declined, saving the state $45.1 million. A chart showing the changes is on the next slide. It is important to note that the $279,404 figure on this slide includes the anticipated savings from the employer share of VRS for fiscal year 2019. The governor's introduced budget provides a 2% salary increase in fiscal year 2020 with an effective date of December 1, 2019 for funded SOQ instructional and support positions. While the aforementioned minimum average 2% pay increase must be provided by school divisions in order to receive the state funds, a required local match based on the division composite index formally required under the compensation supplement formula is not specifically required in fiscal year 2020 under this action. The governor's introduced budget provides state funding for a full-time principal in every elementary school in fiscal year 2020. This funding supports an SOQ staffing recommendation of the Board of Education. In Chapter 836, state funding is provided for 0.5 of an elementary school principal in schools with enrollment under 300 students. This action will increase state funding by $7.7 million in fiscal year 2020. In addition to the technical updates to the Virginia Preschool Initiative funding formula, the governor's introduced budget also maintains the projected Virginia Preschool Initiative non-participation rate in fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 at the same 25.43% rate contained in Chapter 836 for fiscal year 18. This estimate of non-participation affects the total state appropriation for the program, but does not change the division-level allocation of student slots or projected entitlement amounts. The governor's introduced budget proposes an increase of $11.5 million in fiscal year 2019, only to ensure that no division incurs a reduction in state funding in the first year of the new biennium, as compared to the fiscal year 2018 state funding received under the governor's proposed caboose bill. We would like to proceed with caution as this is a proposed budget by the governor, which will not only see some revisions from the incoming governor, but also the House and Senate budgets will be released in the coming months. Therefore, for the purpose of developing the proposed budget for the school board, we are anticipating an increase in state revenue in the area of $279,404. This table shows the funded fringe benefit rates for the new biennium. What is important to note on this slide is the anticipated savings for Virginia Retirement System in the next fiscal budget. Based on the changes in the rates for VRS, the employer's share will decrease by nearly $154,000. This savings is reflected in the state revenue increase on the previous slide. In terms of developing a division operating budget, the early work involves assessing the current work of our strategic plan, Pathways 2022, to include major division initiatives and soliciting input from our various departments and schools. Once that input has been collected, we work with our school board and division leaders to prioritize and align each budget item with the 4 major goals of our strategic plan. This year is unique in that we contacted and contracted with a third-party consultant, Evergreen Solutions, to conduct a compensation study for the school division. While the study has not concluded at this time, we have some important information from the study that we will share with you later in this presentation. Caroline County Public Schools Strategic Plan, Pathways 2022, consists of 4 major goals. The first, teaching and learning. The key priorities under Goal 1 for instruction involve providing additional curriculum support for the areas of history and science, as well as adding additional instructional positions for the nursing assistant program, advanced middle school English, and single class elective courses such as barbering, American Sign Language, and an Introduction to Teaching course. Additionally, extending the contracts for all content instructional specialists to 12 months will also support professional development and curriculum planning over the summer months when much of the planning for the next school year is taking place. Goal 2, school and community relationships. The primary need in this area involves providing interpreter and translation services to families of students with English as a second language. This is a federal requirement which may be met by providing stipends to current staff members who could provide this service in addition to their contractual responsibilities. Goal 3, health and safety. Our highest priority for improving health and safety is ensuring that we have adequate custodial coverage and support for each school. A clean building may have a direct impact on student and staff health. We are currently looking at developing a schedule which will increase the number of custodians on duty during the school day. As we assess our efforts to ensure the safety of staff and students, the need for a division safety and compliance officer has remained a recommendation over the past 2 years. A safety and compliance officer would be assigned the responsibilities of addressing issues that impact school, student, and staff safety. Additionally, the school compliance officer would collaborate with our risk management provider, county services, and school resource officers to improve safety conditions as well as ensure compliance with state and local requirements. At the core of this work would be the development, training, and sustainability of a comprehensive crisis management plan. Goal 4, organizational effectiveness. Goal 4 involves improving organizational efficiency and effectiveness. To do so, our departments and schools will continue to assess areas where additional services such as clerical, technical, and student services are needed. Between 2008 and 2010, over 50 division positions were eliminated to compensate for reductions in state and local revenue. It is important to note that the reduction in staffing did not correspond to a reduction in student enrollment. Student enrollment has increased only slightly since 2010. Therefore, as state requirements have increased, the school division has been required to provide a greater service with less employees. Since 2010, several teaching positions and classroom supports, such as teacher assistants, have been added to better meet the needs of students. However, positions in these support areas have lagged behind. Our division compensation study began in November and is scheduled to conclude this spring. Evergreen Solutions, LLC, was retained by Caroline County Public Schools to conduct a compensation survey for the school division. This study was designed to focus on external equity of the compensation structure for CCPS employees. External equity deals with the differences between what our current compensation system provides for each employee group or classification and what compensation is available in the marketplace for the same skills, capabilities, and duties. Our consultants developed recommendations using market data and best practices. Additionally, they will work with our division leadership to develop a compensation structure that supports their recommendations. The study included 11 local school divisions as well as several Caroline County employee groups. 60 employee groups were compared with like employee groups from the study participants. Teachers were compared with teachers and clerical employees to clerical. In order to make a fair comparison, wages on the salary scales for each school division and county were converted to hourly rates. Our researchers received over 401 market matches or responses, which was very good considering the bulk of data collection took place around the holiday winter break. The listed school divisions participated in our salary study. When comparing salary results, the researchers compared our wages for each employee group with an established average minimum, midpoint, and maximum rate. Primarily, the results substantiated what we already knew about our current compensation schedules. Our entry-level pay for many of our employee groups is lower than many of our surrounding school divisions. However, our current compensation scales become more competitive with tenure as long as our employees continue to receive their step increases. As you can see, while 20.5% of our starting salaries were below the minimum average for our market, 5.8% were below the midpoint average, and only 1.1% were below the maximum average. Additionally, our division possesses 6 salary schedules, which is not conducive for consistent adjustments to the compensation structure. Consequently, it was recommended that we condense our salary schedules to 3, one for administrators, teachers, and educational support. In doing so, it was recommended that we condense our schedules to be more consistent with the market minimum, midpoint, and maximum salary averages. This would ensure that our future hires begin employment at a more competitive salary. In order to ensure that any adjustments to our compensation schedules will move all employees closer to the market average for their employee group, we asked our consultant to work with us to develop several alternatives for managing the cost associated with placing our employees on the appropriate place on a revised salary scale. The following slide reflects their latest recommendations for bringing employee compensation up to the appropriate market values based on results of the compensation study. The consultant provided a 1-, 2-, and 3-year option for addressing the disparities for all employee groups based on the results of the study. In each option, a figure for bring to minimum is provided for moving only those employees who are currently below the minimum starting average for their group up to the minimum. We do not support this option since it does not address similar or even larger disparities with other tenured employees and therefore would lead to greater compression of our current scale. Class date parity refers to bringing all employees to the market rate for their employee classification based on the findings of the compensation study. Since the total for accomplishing this was calculated at $1.6 million, we asked for a variety of options over 1, 2, or 3 years. Note, the figures provided by the consultant do not include taxes or fringe benefits. Therefore, an adjustment will be made to compensate for additional employer contributions. The figure that will be represented in the FY19 proposed budget will reflect year 1 of a 3-year compensation plan. It is our hope that in addition to funding the identified strategic plan priorities, our county government will support a 3-year plan to address the disparities identified in the compensation study. Moving forward, Caroline County Public Schools will continue to work on the following 3 items. We will work with the consultant and county administrator to establish the best plan for achieving class date parity for every employee group. Caroline County Public Schools will develop a compensation schedule that the county and school board will commit to supporting long term. And thirdly, we will initiate the first year of a compensation plan in fiscal year 2019. On February 12, 2018, Dr. Parker, Division Superintendent, will present the proposed School Division FY19 operating budget to the school board for consideration and approval. Included in that presentation will be a revised summary of the estimate of needs, which contains many of the items included in this presentation. On February 13th, the school division will present the approved budget to the County Board of Supervisors. The meeting will be held at the Community Services Building at 6 p.m. Future meetings include March 13th Board of Supervisors meeting, where the county administrator will present the proposed county budget. On March 27, 2018, the Board of Supervisors meeting will include a public hearing on the county proposed budget as well as budget consideration for approval.